Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, welcome to the session today and the Careers Practitioner Workshop. So in this session I'll be talking through our Bachelor of Education offerings and looking at some of the ways that we've been developing our courses to really respond, I guess, to industry needs and to more effectively develop and support the teachers of the future. Welcome to everyone joining us virtually. Before we start, I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are gathered on virtually, peoples of the Kulin Nation, and specifically I'm on Bunurong land today, so I just wanted to acknowledge and pay my respects to the elders of the Bunurong people, past, present and future. So I'm an associate professor in the Faculty of Education. I'm also the director of Initial Teacher Education. So I oversee all our initial teacher education courses within the faculty. And just before I kind of dive into those, I just wanted to highlight a few resources that we have available in the faculty to sort of support teaching and raise awareness about all issues to do with education. So we host a number of public events. At the moment, those are all moving to online, so very accessible and available at the web link there. We also have our Teach Space resource, which offers all sorts of interesting articles, different resources to support teachers within the profession and for our students as well. So you can have a look in there for sort of up-to-date new information. And then also a range of short courses that we have that support professional development within the teaching profession. Okay, so in terms of becoming a teacher, I'll just go through in the next slides some of the kind of pathways that we have to becoming a teacher and some of the different routes that we offer, and just give a bit of an overview of those and some of the entry requirements for our courses as well. So just to start off with a bit of a kind of overview of the faculty. The faculty's actually ranked #1 in Australia. We have been for several years, and is now ranked 12th in the world within the latest 2020 rankings. So we're consistently ranked within the top 20 in the world, and I guess this is sort of, you know, a key draw for students and an important thing to think about in terms of the sort of the education that individuals are coming into here and that students will get. So Monash is well known for education, and it's well known globally for what we offer.
Sorry to interrupt you, Ruth. We can't really see your progressing to the next slide. We can just only see the opening slide here.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Okay, I'll click through manually if that's okay. So
yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Can you change to display mode so we can see?
I've got 3 screens going, so it's on display on this.
Oh. Okay.
So to me, it's on display. Hang on a second. I'll just continue to work through like this, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
You can see the slides from there. So in terms of our location, we're located traditionally and usually on the Clayton and Peninsula campuses. Both campuses have had significant redevelopment over the last few years. So got a beautiful new building at the Clayton campus, which is in the photograph there. And all sorts of new and innovative teaching spaces to support the delivery of our education programs. The Peninsula campus also, which houses some of our offerings, has recently had new developments within our buildings there, and some great new teaching spaces and spaces where students can kind of come together and work collaboratively there as well. In terms of what's on offer within our Bachelor of Education programme, so we offer the Bachelor of Education Honours programme, We've got a range of specialisations within that, which I'll talk through in a moment. And we also offer what we call dual sector specialisations, so the opportunity to study primary and secondary qualifications together. We've got a range of double degree options as well, so students have the opportunity to undertake an education degree with another degree alongside. All of our Bachelor of Education programmes, as you would expect, have a really strong embedded professional experience aspect, where students are out in schools and, you know, really learning the real life aspects of teaching. In terms of the qualifications, students obviously graduate with their degree, but they also graduate with an embedded honours, which can set them apart from a number of other programmes. So the honours qualification is embedded throughout the course, and in the final year they undertake an element of research in relation to their practice, which provides the honours qualification. And we have a really strong focus in the Faculty of Education on the student experience, and a number of sort of different teams now that we've developed to support that student experience. So we have an excellent student advice team that's made up of professional staff and our current students that offer ongoing support and advice to our students as they move through the degree. All our students, when they arrive now, are assigned a student support officer who will stay with them throughout their 4 years on the course. So they have a sort of ongoing contact person that can give a range of support, advice, referral services as and when required. In terms of teaching as a profession, this was just one report that I sort of wanted to highlight. So this was a report, as it indicates there, developed by the National Centre for Vocational Education Research, looking at sort of job prospects in the future and where there's going to be highest demand for jobs. So as you can see here by the highlighting, there is anticipation that there is going to be high demand for school teachers moving forward. So in terms of a degree option that's going to lead to a career that's needed and there's going to be openings, education really sort of is at the forefront there, along with midwifery and nursing, as you can see. In terms of Monash, in the last VTAC applications for education as first preference increased by 11.2%. So that again sort of really demonstrates the demand there and the preference of Monash as a provider by future students. Key, I guess, to what we offer as well is that our graduates do get employed. So you can see from the figures there, within 4 months of graduating, 84% of our graduates are in full-time employment. That might not always be in education. That's the beauty of an education degree. It can be used in many sectors and is highly sought after in, you know, many other sectors where an educational component is needed. But the majority of our graduates end up in full-time employment very quickly after graduating. And as you can see there, the majority end up finding some sort of employment within 4 months of graduating. And often that's through choice of students deciding that they're going to do casual relief teaching for a while when they finish. And so they would fall into that category of the 95%. So in terms of our pathways of becoming a teacher, we offer 3 different options at Monash. The Bachelor of Education Honours, which is a 4-year degree programme that I'll talk through. As I mentioned, the Bachelor of Education is a double degree. And then we also, obviously less relevance to the audience here, but you can do a bachelor's degree and then finish that off with a Masters of Teaching that's 1.5 or 2 years, which we also offer at Monash. In terms of our specialisation, we really pride ourselves on sort of covering the education sectors and offering, you know, big diversity within our offerings of courses. So we have, as you can see there, early childhood and primary education. We have primary education as a single or double degree option, primary and secondary education and primary and secondary inclusive education. So those are our real sort of dual sector degrees where students come out with, you know, just a huge breadth of opportunity available to them. Also, as part of our dual sector degrees, the primary and secondary health and physical education. So again, with all the dual sector degrees, our students graduate able to be generalist primary teachers, but also have a specialism within the secondary sector that they can teach right the way through to VCE. So as I mentioned, gives them a high range of options. Then within the secondary sector, we've got the secondary health and physical education programme, and then we offer secondary education to be studied as a double degree. And students use their double degree to give them the specialist knowledge of what they will teach in secondary schools. With the double degrees, there's the opportunity to combine those with a degree in each of these disciplines. So we have a lot of students going into the Faculty of Arts, and then, as you can see, right the way through business, fine arts, music and science. As I mentioned earlier, professional experience is really key to what we do in all of our courses. So on the Bachelor of Education, our students will do a minimum of 80 days placement within school contexts and early childhood settings that are obviously relevant to their degree programme. We pride ourselves on offering a range of experiences through that professional experience. So the opportunity to work in the public and the private sector, opportunity to work in rural settings, remote settings, different type of education experiences, as well as some opportunity to do international placements if students wish to. So we really look to have that sort of diversity of opportunity available. And again, I think that's something that sort of has really come from the sector as a need, that we need teachers who are skilled to work in multiple different contexts and have the skills to adapt to different cultural, different resource settings as well. So the ability to work in contexts where they might be heavily resourced or have very little resources and have great flexibility in that. So we really try to achieve that through our professional experience offerings. In terms of the entry requirements, so slightly different ATAR requirements for each of the specialisations, which you can see there. So the first one's 75 plus ATAR is usual for entry requirements. And then for the double degrees, usually 85 plus ATAR. Just also to highlight there as well, the English and maths requirements that are prerequisites. We do, as well as a faculty, offer alternate pathways into our Bachelor of Education programme. So students can undertake the Diploma of Tertiary Studies, our DOTS programme, and that's based at our Peninsula campus. And this is for students that have missed out on the ATAR requirements, but they can undertake a one-year programme which contains aspects of the Bachelor of Education degree, but also a number of units that support students in building up their skills that are going to be required within the university setting. But the beauty of this course that if students come out with a particular average across that course, they can instantly pathway into our programmes here, and they pathway into the second year, so they don't lose any time in undertaking their studies. So it's a really fantastic pathway programme for those students that don't quite meet the ATAR requirements. We also have the Diploma of Higher Education, which is the same sort of principle as a pathway programme. And that offers, again, credit into our certain specialisations, so the primary and secondary and the primary and secondary inclusive education and our double degree courses. So two valuable pathway programmes there. And then a final one, which assists students moving into the double degree program. So the Monash College Diploma, which is part of the Arts, Business and Science Diploma program, and students can choose an education specialisation that again allows them to pathway into the second year of the double degree courses. So a range of different options there for entrance. Just as well to highlight a couple of the other entrance requirements, all students now are required to do what's called the Casper test on applying for the degree programme. And the Casper test is basically sort of a situational judgment test, a kind of psychological assessment that really is looking at whether people have the sort of underlying skill set to be teachers, so how they might respond in certain situations. It's all very situation based, and students are given a range of hypothetical scenarios, and then they're asked to sort of discuss what they might do within those scenarios and why they might do it. So the key, I guess, with the Casper test is it allows students to demonstrate their people skills, and sort of shows that there's a level of interpersonal skills, which, as I'll go on to talk about, is really important in terms of being a teacher. So those are the things that Casper assesses for, and there's different assessment dates that we can share with you over the course of the year that students can register to take. So moving on now to the sort of central part of the presentation, and looking at our Bachelor of Education programme in a bit more detail. And in particular, I just wanted to share with you the work we've been doing over the last year or so in redesigning and redeveloping this course to ensure that it really meets the needs of industry and is really sort of targeted at what the education sector has indicated they want from our graduates. So we went through a redesign process in 2019. We had to do this as a requirement for our registration with the Victorian Institute of Teaching and with the university, but we really saw it as an opportunity to review and refine what we were offering, make sure that our course is aligning very strongly with the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, which again is a requirement that, you know, graduates need to be able to demonstrate they meet these requirements. And also in response to different government legislation that's come into force over the last few years. So for instance, in the primary sector, there's now the requirement that every primary school teacher will graduate able to teach a particular specialisation. And so we've had to really embed that within our course and think about how we do that. So the redesign process was heavily driven by consultation with the education sector, and we held a number of different meetings and groups and focus groups and discussion sessions, and we spoke with key stakeholders across all the different sectors we engage with. And we spoke with sort of principals, with senior management, classroom teachers, and trying to sort of consult at every level, our current students, our recent graduates, and really get a good idea for what's now needed in the sector, what perhaps the current course wasn't offering at that stage, and how we could improve. So this slide's just a bit of a summary of the feedback, and I think one of the key things that came from these sessions was this idea at the top about the kind of softer skills it was expected that our graduates would now need. And things like resilience, flexibility, the willingness to continue learning were all kind of highlighted as essential qualities that graduates needed. And then there was the fundamentals of kind of content knowledge, so things like legislative changes, child safety, mandatory reporting, all these things that are now absolutely essential and critical, just ensuring that graduates had very detailed knowledge of that. Some of the core aspects that we know are important about the ability to teach, but to teach in different ways and to have, you know, a range of methods and tools and strategies available. again, some of the fundamentals about how to differentiate, how to develop meaningful assessment, and then core skills around classroom management and better equipping graduates to be able to go into classrooms and deal with different behaviour challenges within those settings. And then again, finally, sort of in relation to what we were saying about the Casper test, this notion of relationship building and being able to build relationships, not just with young people, but also with parents, with teachers around you, to work as part of a team, to work with different types of families, came across strongly as a really important need now within the sector. So taking this on board, we've redeveloped our courses under these 3 core sort of elements. So Monash graduates now are going to be ready to lead, ready to teach, and ready to care. And we felt these 3 elements sort of encapsulate all the different feedback that we had and gave us a framework from which to build the course on. So the ready to teach is that sort of fundamentals, and I guess what we've traditionally always focused on is preparing our graduates to be able to teach and the core components of teaching. But we're also putting out an emphasis now on the 2 other elements. So I guess this sector really spoke to us about graduates having the capability to come and be innovators, to lead change, to lead new and different practices within the field. You know, they're coming from a position of study and developing their knowledge. How can they bring that new knowledge into the sector and sort of enhance practice within the schools? So it came across really strongly that although they are graduates and they're still going to be sort of learning their trade as they kind of go into their first jobs, they also can be leaders in that setting. So we really need to equip them to be able to do that and to move into that space. And then, as mentioned earlier, the notion of relationship building, being able to be flexible, be agile, be able to look after yourself, to support the well-being of others, really came through as important from the sector. So we've added this dimension of graduates being ready to care as well, and to you know, take ownership for their learning, interact well with others, support others, and be able to kind of look after their learners, but also look after themselves and those around them. A core element of the redesigned degree is starting with practice. So traditionally, I think within our degree programs, we'd very much build the theory side of teaching and the kind of research side of things, and then students, as they move through, would build their skills in practice and develop their skills in practice as they graduated. What we're now really working strongly to is the notion of practice from the get-go. So what's practice? What does that look like? What does teaching look like? What does good teaching look like? And then we kind of build the theory around that. So these are particular practices you can use in your classroom. Here's the theory behind why these are good and appropriate in this particular setting. So we've built a suite of units that run through every specialisation that we offer that have a real focus on teaching practice and the nuts and bolts of teaching. And I'll just overview those here. So we have a sort of, you know, an introduction to the profession, all the legislative requirements, what's needed there. Then we have a focus on approaches to teaching, so the pedagogies, planning, assessing, embedding Indigenous perspectives within all education processes, inclusive education, and then these final 2 units are very much around that sort of research element, so understanding how to improve your practice through using evidence, and then collecting evidence to demonstrate that your practice is effective and supporting good learning is the final unit. Within all of these units, there's a real strong emphasis on real life scenarios. So we do that a lot through the professional experience that I've mentioned, but we've also worked really hard on these units to try and bring real life to the university classrooms as well. So we've developed a series of sort of videos and scenarios that were undertaken in real life classrooms, we went into schools and videoed teachers doing things. We videoed kids sort of moving around and doing different stuff. And we've actually converted those into virtual reality videos where our students now can come in the first unit in first year, whereas traditionally they'd sometimes go in and do professional experience and sort of sit to the back and just try and observe in that context. What we can now do is have the students in our classroom. They'll put virtual reality headsets on. They'll be immersed in a classroom that we're kind of in control of, and we can encourage them to look at different things that are happening in those classrooms and critique them. So whereas in professional experience, the student kind of comes in and then we're reliant on them reflecting, we're reliant on their mentor teacher giving them support. Through the use of virtual reality, we're now able to actually give them that support directly and talk them through different situations and scenarios that they might encounter. So this is really valuable for things like, say, behaviour management. So we have videos that show issues with behaviours in classrooms, and the students can sit and be immersed in that classroom through virtual reality and think about ways and strategies that we might address what's happening and how we might prevent it from happening in the first place. So we're really trying to bring real life now into what we do and into the teachings that we offer at the university. So within this redesign, there's been a real sort of focus on developing students' capabilities, making sure that, you know, they're not just able to sort of speak and theorize about the practice of teaching, they're also able to do, but they have a really good, strong knowledge of why they're doing things the way they're doing them. That real focus on authenticity, so having that real life experience and being able to reflect and refine on that. And a very scaffolded experience. So building from virtual reality scenarios right the way through to actually being in the classroom, and then finally in the fourth year sort of really taking over the classroom and developing their skills in that way. So mention the professional experience, a total of 80 days. The one thing I will highlight here is our professional practice consultants, which again is something that we have within our faculty that's absolutely invaluable in supporting students when they go into schools and do their professional experience. So our professional practice consultants have all been leaders in the education field. So we have a team of approximately 10 consultants. They have been in high-level senior leadership roles within schools. They've recently come out of that to undertake the role here, and so they're very, very familiar with what's happening within the sector at the moment, what the needs are within the sector, and these consultants actually prepare our students for going out on professional experience. So they provide additional sort of specific training for undertaking professional experience, and then they're there to support our pre-service teachers when they're in schools. So if they're having any issues, the consultant can help them with that. They also work with our mentor teachers and help provide advice and support to the mentor teachers and resources to assist with that mentoring process. So we're incredibly lucky within the faculty to have this team of people available to support our students and also keep us very connected to industry in that process. Just a quick note on the primary specialisations, because this again really helps our graduates be sort of very employable in terms of when they finish up. So it's a new requirement that all generalist primary teachers have to have a specialisation, and ours specialise in one of 3 areas. So depending on the degree programme you're doing, some of our graduates in the single degree, primary single degree, will come out with 3 specialisations, some will come out with 2. So those are across literacy, numeracy and science. So I just wanted here just to sort of give an overview of what the course looks like. So these yellow units down the left-hand side of the map, these are what I was talking about in terms of the core practice units that are consistent across all specialisations. And then the rest of the map is filled with curriculum studies units that are sort of specific curriculum elements. So this is the primary map, and you can see all the different elements of the primary curriculum highlighted here. And then the pink is the professional experience unit. So this is sort of the way it all kind of fits together. And all of our units feed off the practice units. So, for example, in doing planning for learning and teaching in the second year, the primary creative arts unit will feed off that and do aspects of planning for creative arts in that. So the units all sort of talk to each other and build knowledge. So I'm going to hand over in a second to one of our current students, but I thought it might also be useful just to highlight the student experience and to talk to that. So I've got a short video now. Let's see if this works. One of our current students just talking about her experiences on the course.
I'm fairly active. I've literally got the environment around me that I can exercise in. It's really unique. My name's Erin Mead. I am studying the Bachelor of Primary and Secondary Education, specialising in health and phys ed. I would really like to be a teacher, mainly because I love to help people. Health and PE, it's like the only subject where you can truly get to move your body to learn, and I think that's so unique. Kat Turner is my mentor teacher here at Wonthaggi Secondary. She has been amazing.
So I was really excited as a mentor teacher. I get the opportunity to share the knowledge that I've gained.
There's 10 of us here at Wonthaggi Secondary College. Monash has been able to create a really supportive vibe. It's special that we've all been sent to the same area. So my dream, it would be sick to get a job down here. It's confirmed my want to be a HPE teacher. It's been really great.
Great, so that's everything from me in terms of the course, but I wanted to hand over now to one of our current students, Clara. Jennifer, is Clara available?
So we had a slight change of plan. Clara unfortunately is sick today, and we got another student here, Alicia Lamb, who is also a double degree student. Hi, Alicia. And yeah, she's going to share some of her study experience and just general like feeling of how you have enjoy the course so far, and your especially your placement experience, and if you have gone on to, an international placement, because some of the teachers they were asking about international placement, and you could also talk about that if you have that experience. All right, over to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Jen. So good morning, everybody. My name's Alicia, and I'm a current third-year student doing my Bachelor of Education in Primary Education and Commerce degree at Monash University. And I'm currently majoring in Business Analytics for my Commerce component of my degree. So just a little bit about me. I've always had the passion to teach since a really young age, but in my final years of high school, the choice of making a degree, of choosing a degree and career choice was really daunting to me, because I was quite an adventurous person and I really wanted a taste of everything, from arts to commerce, even to science, possibly because I felt like I did not have enough information to make a decision at that point when I was in year 12. So at that stage, I considered what I really wanted to do, and I guess I considered things that I knew I would be really passionate about and would keep me motivated. So when thinking about that, teaching was always quite high up in my bucket list. And one of the main things that I knew I wanted to do was to go overseas and use my teaching expertise to influence and educate students, especially those who have had limited access to educational facilities. So what really stood out to me as a Year 12 graduate was the diversity of the Monash Education degree courses. Even though I knew that I wanted to do education, I wasn't really sure if that was the only thing I wanted to do. And the Monash Bachelor degrees are all 4-year degrees that includes an honours component, but it also can be combined with a separate double degree as well. So that was really the main selling point for me. So Monash has always also been a leader out of Australian universities in the field of education, which was a bonus to me, and added on bonus. And I guess the top 3 things that I really enjoyed about Monash, from a student's perspective, the largest one would probably be assessments, because the education degrees actually do not contain end of year or end of semester exams. Instead, they are all contained within in-semester assignments. So for students, that really just means stress-free end of semesters where all the other students from all the other faculties are stressing out about the exams. Education students do not have that problem. Another one is also the scope of knowledge that you're exposed to in the Faculty of Education, because the courses and the units are really taught by qualified and professional staffs who have actually been in an education setting once before. So the learning really just doesn't end at the pedagogical side. It's also about the experiences and the stories that they tell that are really invaluable for students as well. So lastly, placement experience. It's always the best part of an education degree, where you're out in schools for several weeks interacting in a real school environment. And it really allows students to apply the knowledge that they've learnt and experimented with different teaching styles in an environment that they know that they're supported in with a mentor teacher. And the best thing about placements is that in an education degree, it's all sourced by the placement officers at Monash University. So students do not have that added on stress of trying to scramble upon and find cold call schools and try to find their own placement allocations and placement schools. Yeah, and there are also overseas placement opportunities. I personally haven't had the chance to go on one, even though I really would appreciate the opportunity to do that. But I do know of some students who had the opportunities to go to Prato, China, UK, etc. So it's really all around the world. I think Monash is quite a global university, and they have global ties across lots of educational institutions around the world. So the opportunities at Monash are definitely endless in terms of what students are able to do and what students are able to get exposed to in the education faculty at Monash. So hopefully that gave you just a little bit of an insight of what student life at Monash is like. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alicia. That's great. Great to hear about your experiences. So that's sort of, I guess, everything from us. Jennifer, is it time for questions and answers, or?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions from the teachers here, and I think some of the questions we can get Alicia to answer as well.
Brilliant.
So one of the questions was, if a student doesn't want to undertake the honors year, well, the final year, because traditionally the honors year is the final 4th year. So if they don't want to do the honors, can they just exit early and still gain a teaching qualification?
No,
without the honors.
No, regardless, the education degree program is 4 years, so that's standard in terms of qualifying as a teacher. So because as well the honours is embedded throughout, it's not just the final year program, so it's not a traditional 3-year degree and an honours year. Honours is all the way through, so there is early exits, but that wouldn't lead to a teaching qualification. You have to undertake the 4 years to be qualified as a teacher.
Great. Thanks, Ruth. And another question from Leanne. When can a student apply for international placement, and how long can they remain there in that country? And are there any financial support for that?
Yeah, certainly. So students can apply from 2nd year onwards, and depending on where they go really influences the length of placement. So usually it's around 3 weeks. Yeah. For them to go. In terms of support, yes, there are sort of different levels of funding available through the university, and in particularly in sort of hardship cases as well. So there is some support available for that, for students to undertake that.
And Alicia, do you know any students who have received financial support to go on overseas placement?
I do, definitely. So it's actually quite a straightforward and easy process, and Monash actually supports students quite well in terms of applying for financial aid or financial support when attending those international placements.
Yeah, and I have spoken to students who said you can put the expenses onto their HECS, so that's also another way of the university supporting them financially. We have a couple more questions. So there's one question from Elizabeth regarding the Casper test. So the concern is my international students who live in a small rural town in central Victoria find this very challenging due to their life experience. And do we have any data that shows the number of international students accepted into our course has stayed steady since this was introduced? Their impression is that fewer internationals are getting offers, and they now go to courses in New South Wales.
Yeah, I mean, our international student numbers have stayed fairly steady, but there is an acknowledgement around I guess the cultural specific nature of the Casper test, and we have raised sort of problems and issues with this. I think one of the key things we advise students to do if they're interested in applying is to kind of run through some different practice tests for this, and those are available for the Casper test. So just trying to prepare a bit more, but we're definitely aware, I guess, of these limitations. But for us so far, it hasn't impacted heavily on our international student intake.
Yeah, great. Alicia, do you want to say something about the Casper test and what you have seen among your international peers, how they found the test?
I feel like in terms of international students and them being able to, it's not so much that, I think it's more so the cultural specific nature of it, as Ruth said as well, that lots of international students kind of find challenging. But I feel like even as a student at Monash, I still see lots of international students in the Faculty of Education. So I don't see that as a huge barrier in terms of having international students join the Faculty of Education.
Yeah, right. Ruth, do you want to add anything further to what you talked about or any of the questions?
No, I mean, I think that sort of covers all the key things, and hopefully just really shows the way that the sector's really strongly driving what we're doing and how we've tried to develop and have that strong emphasis on practice and the real life of working in a school to give that experience and to continue to improve the graduates that we produce. So.
Yeah, so we certainly put practice at the center of our program, and there is a very strong demand for teachers nationally, and as the attendees who have attended our admissions director, James Marshall's speech would realize the students, the VTAC applications that applied for education as their first preference at Monash has seen the largest increase. It has increased by over 11%. So that really shows the demand, that the demand is out there. And really since the beginning of the pandemic, I have seen that we have received a lot more interest in our Master of Teaching course as well. So it's one of our other initial teacher qualification courses. So there is a lot more demand for our teaching program. So that's really, really good. And I think we should probably wrap up and then let people have a little break before they go on to their next session at 12. So thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us. We hope we address some of your questions. And if you do have any more questions, please feel free to email us. You can email me at jennifer.lee, so jennifer.li@monash.edu, and I will be able to answer any of your questions as soon as possible. And if you want a copy of the slides, some people said they wanted a copy of the slides, feel free to also email me and I'll get you the slides as soon as possible. All right, hope you enjoy the rest of our seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.